Likutei Moharan, Terech of Beis. We're holding by Seif Vav. Now, the very same way that in the body of a person there is an aspect of the essence, the etzem, which is the neshama, and there is that which is called basar, it's called the flesh, which is the body. Now, we already said that when we say body, we don't just mean the physical flesh. We also are talking about the nefesh and the ruach. You know, the spirit that allows for self-awareness. All those bechinas which are part of a person's presence is olam hazeh. All this is called basar. It's called flesh. When compared to the neshama, to the soul, which is the essence. The neshama does not actually reside in the body. Only the very lower tip is in the body itself. Whereas the nefesh and the ruach are actually in the body. So, and we want to create a shaykhus between the neshama and the body. That's the whole point of this exercise. V'chem b'chlolias bnei ha'odom, in general, or all the people, there is a b'chinas etzem u'basar. There is also a manifestation of the essence and the body that is the chariot for that essence. Hainu, she'achocham ha'emes, the true chocham, the true sage, shu b'chinas haneshama la'am, who is the soul for the people, shem l'mata mimenu that below him. Hu b'chinas etzem, he represents the essence. Ve'am hem kenegdo b'chinas basar, and the people, you know, in relation to him, are basar, flesh. Ukshe'em b'chinas basar, and when they are, you know, locked onto the existence of basar, k'mo basar guf be'etzem ha'adam, like the flesh of a person, you know, by the person's essence, what they do, in other words, when they serve, when they are close, when they are in harmonious relationship, they are, you know, they're not, you know, how shall I say, they're not a separate entity, they're not like, you know, disengaged from the essence, but they are serving the essence. Like the flesh serves the bones, it moves the skeleton or whatever. And they hear the sound of the sigh. In other words, the voice of the Chacham. They actually hear the voice of the Chacham. And what it does is that it beats up, you know, the coarseness of their body. It's a gufa shel adam, is what the pasuk says. You know, the very same way that the sigh, you know, breaks down the body. And this enables the Chacham to get closer to the people. Because they are now in a state of basar. Like we said before, from the sound of my sigh, the atzmi, the essence, is connected to my basar, to my flesh. In other words, the Chacham In other words, the Chacham is able to announce to them, to let them know from their sagas and their auras that it's massive. Same way that the neshama lets the body know from their aura and their saga that it's massive. The Chacham is the neshama to the people like the neshama is to individual body. But when they are not when they are not in a madreg of being a subservient flesh, which means they're very distant from the Chacham, they don't hear at all the sound of the sight. And even if they do hear his voice, you don't hear the actual voice itself. What they hear is the echo, a reflection of the sound. That doesn't break down the arts of their body. Same thing, there is a bechina in the body and in the neshama itself, individually. Sometimes the body is so far from the neshama, he doesn't even hear the sigh of the neshama. And even if when it hears the sound of the neshama, it doesn't hear the voice itself, but it hears like the echo of the voice. And that doesn't break down the al-saguf. Now the Rebbe is going to explain what does it mean, the kol havara, the echo, in this respect. But I'd like to preface this with the concept that in quite a few places, Rabbeinu brings down this inyan, the difference between the kol, which is the sound, and the diwa, which is the speech. The kol is a much earlier bechina of expression, because the kol comes from the shis is koin shebakona. It comes from the throat. The words are being formed, are being parsed out through the five instruments of the mouth. The voice, the tikkun, and the level of voice is an extremely exalted tikkun. In the last Torah of Rabbeinu, that he said in this world, which is like the Rebbe's tzavah, Ches in the second Chelek, the Rebbe says that even though there's a big mitzvah to admonish one's friend, admonish himself, whatever, nevertheless, not every person is fit to admonish. And the Rebbe mentions the kol hamachiach aloi, the voice of the proper admonisher. He says the difference is when somebody who is not fit to admonishes, it makes the neshamas that hear the admonishment, it makes them stink by themselves. And not only this, but it blocks the vitality of this neshama from Olam Eshelyonim, and all the upper worlds which are connected to that neshama, they also don't get the chayas. Horrible thing. When maybe you think it's a good idea that we should close the doors, please, because otherwise we're going to compete against the crowds. And we're going to lose. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just, it's house cleaning. was explaining to them. And he brings down the union of the voice of Moshe Rabbeinu. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he admonished the people, when he admonished them, not only he didn't make them stink by themselves, but he actually added a good smell to them. Mimele l'maise, whenever it is that a person wants to admonish somebody, what a person should do is ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please give me now that voice from Achich Haroi. Say when you admonish yourself, and say when you admonish other people, whatever it is. Before you do it, just ask a short tefillah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you this, so you shouldn't break them. I saw it on my own self. I mean, the result of. I was talking to somebody who was having problems davening, just getting to daven, whatever. And I realized if I'm going to come to him, I'm going to say, what's the story with you, man? It's like, so what he doesn't know that he does that he has problem davening. He knows better than me. If I'm going to tell him this, it's going to break him. It's just going to demoralize him. It's just going to. So I asked Kadosh Baruch Hu, give me kol machech haroi. And when I came to him, it's just like, I don't know why I said this. I said to him, listen, I need a favor. I need you to daven for me. I need you to daven for me. He goes, okay. I was like, I told him the same thing. But instead of breaking him down, I built him up. So I don't get his choshev by him. The sound, the call of a Machich Haroi, what it does is that it makes the one that you're admonishing feel important. And that drives him into action. But Bechlal, this etzem of the call is an extremely high bechina. It's a very, very, very sophisticated and high bechina. And the Rebbe in Torah Gimel talks about the tikkun hakol. So he talks about the rectification of the call and the level of the call, which is beyond the dibur. The Kiviyachol is the. Here in this world, the call is in Zeranpin, in the Malchus, the Dibur is in the Malchus. But even higher than that, the call is in the Chochmah and the Dibur is in the Bina. It's like there's a Dibur in the Chochmah and the thought in the Bina, comprehension in the Bina that we're learning. But nevertheless, as we learn in Likutei Moharan, the call is a much higher and less differentiated bechina. So there are qualities in the call which are beyond the dibur, far beyond the dibur. You should know that this thing exists. Sif Zayin, v'kol ha'avorahu, and what constitutes this echoing? That the people, he's talking to them, they hear him. What do you mean, why don't they hear his voice? It's not like they are standing by the Grand Canyon and hearing, reverberation of the sound. He says it like this, when the voice that comes from the side of holiness, either from the sage or a person's own kol hanacha. Azai mis'or mimeno kol l'sitracha. corresponding wakes up another sound that emanates from the Sitra Achara, from the other side of the defilement. There are Averis, that when a person does Averis, Nivroi Mechablim, you have avenging angels are created. And they scream to a person, give us food, give us life. Because the klal is, the Zohar says, man de yav chaye, yav mezoyna. Anybody who gives life has to give sustenance. You have children, you have to feed them. Now, these avenging angels that are created from one's Averis, they are that person's children. Like all children. Mommy, I want this. Are we there yet? I want to have a drink. I want to have this. Get me this. I want this. They do the same thing. So the Malach Habolah says, give us, give us life. You give us life. Give us sustenance. But as long as the sound of Kedusha does not sound, nothing. They rest. You don't make a balagan. You don't come to the store, you don't come to the store to buy anything, needs for the house, whatever it is. You walk in the street, they don't dry your cup. The minute you go into the store, forget about it. Mommy, I want this. Daddy, I want this. I want it. Same thing over here. The minute that the sound of Kedusha comes, which means here comes the Kedusha, here comes sustenance. You're walking into the grace store, so to speak. The minute the sound of Kedusha is awakened, immediately they wake up again. And they start shouting and indicting against them. That's the sound of echo, called Havara. It's the corresponding sound. It comes from the sound of Kedusha. And when the person hears that sound, not only it doesn't break his alus aguf and it wakes into Avodas Hashem, but exactly the opposite. It deepens the boldness of the body and it breaks him down. It breaks him down even more. That's the same thing as we said before, the Kol HaMochiach HaRoi, the voice of the proper admonition. I think it says here, B'Shem the Paperos. This is what it is said in Yirmiyahu, Im Avoneinu Olavon, if our sins have answer within us, it says Hashem, Aseh Leman Shmecha. This is what in Yirmiyahu says. What's alluded to in this is that En Aniyah, the only answer is in Lashon Tza'aka. It's that Aniyah answer is the sound of it says Aniyah also the sound of poverty. It's a Lashon of crying out. That's what Rashi says. Im Avoneinu Onu Banu, if our Averis cry out within us, Hainu sha'avonis tzokim banu, our Averis, the screaming in us. Betochenu mamash inside us. Alidei shnis'era kol de Kedusha. Why? Because the sound of Kedusha, the call of Kedusha, voice of Kedusha has been awakened. Kmo shekol etzela tzerofis. That woman that Eliyahu stayed by her and her son died. You came to me, to remind, to awaken my Averis, as long as he wasn't there. She was just regular. The minute the tzaddik comes there, suddenly Mishamayim, you see the contrast between her and him. He says, you came to remind everybody of my Averis. In other words, as long as Eliyahu wasn't there, Kozman Shelo Hashem Eliyahu, the Kedusha wasn't increased to that degree. Her own Averis were resting, they were inert. But when Eliyahu was there and his Kedusha was there, her own Averis was awakened to start, snitching on her and saying, check her out. If our own Averis, call out within us. That the Averis are screaming within us. Even when we actually cry out, a voice to Kedusha, we don't hear the actual voice of the Kedusha. To break with it the azus, the boldness of the body. We hear the sound of the echo. It's the sound, it's the voice of the Averis that awaken vis-a-vis the voice of Kedusha. And they awaken us to cry, Hashem aseh leman shemecha. He says, She'ata, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, be'atzmecho taseh leman shimcha v'terachem lemancha levad. He says, Im avarseinu, the pasuk said like this. Im avarseinu onu vanu, Hashem aseh leman shemecha. That's the pasuk in Yirmiyahu. Okay? So it means when we are in a state of avanoseinu onu vanu, our own Averis, they cry out within us to the point we can't even hear the call to Kedusha. The only thing left, the only resource left to us is Hashem aseh leman shemecha. Please just do for your own sake. We can't even hear. I'm homeless. I'm in the street. I can't move. I can't lift myself up. Do me a favor. Just do for your sake. If our Averis are screaming out within us, we can't even hear our call. We can't self-improve. Hashem aseh leman shemecha. We are not b'chinas guf. Still, even though then we are able to hear the call to Kedusha and break the others of guf. If Hashem will do for His own sake, then it can happen. When a person is not in a state of being the flesh to the sage, who is an essence of, who is in a state of essence, or represents the essence, he doesn't hear the voice of the Chocham itself. What he hears the sound of his own Averis. His own is that call that I awaken because of this call of the Chocham. And this is says in Dira the Mishnah. At the Kerabo, we said already, we mentioned this, when a person blows the shofar into a bore, into a hole in the ground. It says, if Shama called Kiyo, if a person hears the sound of the blowing, Yotz, the mitzvah of Kiyas shofar. Shama kol avara, but if he hears the echo of the sound, lo Yotz, then he's not Yotz. He's not Yotz. So he says, Tokea babo, what does it mean Tokea babo? What the Ramiro was Bivchina Shatan Bevo Tachtis, when you put me in a dugout in the ground, that the body is so strong with the tigers that it's like I'm in a hole in the ground. I'm like trapped in a hole in the ground. I'm a prisoner in a hole in the ground. And a person's size. And he blows on it, as we says that the Inyan of Shofar is breaking down the other Saguf. Remember the three types of the Anocha, the Tkiyo, the Shvorim, the Trua, the Mishnah says Oisam the Machutz, those who are standing outside, that are not in a state of being a flesh, because the body is so far from the Neshama, the people are so far from the Tzaddik. In Kol Shefer Shama, if the body actually hears the call of the sigh, the call of the Neshama, Yotza. In other words, a person can exit the evil that he is, his own evil, and break down the boldness of the body. V'im kol avora shamo, but if a person only hears the reverberation of the sound, lo yotza. In other words, he cannot get out of his own bed. He cannot break the as we say. And he says like this. He says it b'shem. Reb Nosson says it Likutei Moharan. Also, somebody who is still not hasn't merited to be a bossa to the chacham. What can I do? Still, if a person will force himself to listen really closely, with great intent, with great concentration, to hear his neshama and to hear the voice of the tzaddikim amitim, he also has hope to hear the sound of the kedusha itself. The only thing is that it's such that you have to really, really listen for it. You have to really listen for it. V'im kol shofar shama yotza. Even you're still, he says, all those are only machutz, all those are standing outside, which means you're not in a state of basar, of being a flesh. And still, im shama kol kiyo yotza, kol shofar shama, if you heard the sound of the shofar, you're yotza. How can it be? You're bachutz. You're not basar. How can you hear? He says, because if you force yourself to hear, to listen very intently, there is a hope to hear the call of shofar. Because otherwise, how are you ever going to get there? The only way that you can hear is you have to hear the voice of the neshama, to break down the other saguf, to get to all these bechinas, to be able to hear, the teichach of the chacham. If you're outside and you're not a bechinas basar and you can't hear the call, if you don't have a chance to hear the call of the chacham, that's it. I mean, you're done. You might as well stick a fork in here. You're done. You're finished. It's like dead meat. Finish. Kaputski. But if you listen closely, even if you're not basar, if you listen real closely, real intently, and you have all these sounds inside your head, no, I really don't want to do this. No, leave me alone. It's okay. No. There's hope. And you can start, you have a little string, and you can start pulling the string. And that's all here for today. Nope.